Hey everybody, Chef Paul here, and I'm with the most awesome ever Chef Jen. And Francie is joining us too. She is your wonderful school tutor. She is an asset to the school. She is a wonderful person, and if you haven't met her yet, I probably did in orientation, but if you haven't, you'll get your chance to meet her tonight. All three of us are here to help you guys through the next 12 weeks of this class. Yes, it's 12 weeks long. I'm going to go over each week I'll go over each week a little bit today, just to kind of like touch on a few things, just so that you guys can start thinking about the future, what's coming up. But I just wanted to let you guys know that I'm very thrilled to be your BK101 instructor. And I am thrilled to be with Francie and Chef Jen because together you guys are going to have an amazing experience. I promise that. We are very student forward. We are very much into feedback. We love communication. We love participation. And we love it when our students are very active in class. Okay. So before I get started with all of that stuff, and some of you I may have met in orientation. I know there was a pretty decent sized group there, but some of you guys may not know who the heck I am. Maybe you read my bio and profile. And if you didn't, that's okay too. It's kind of long and boring. So I've been around for a long time. I've been a pastry chef for almost 30 years now. I've been cooking ever since I was a little kid. I grew up in Vermont on a dairy farm on Lake Champlain, so about 8 miles from the Canadian border. And because we had so many hired hands working on the farm, my mom had me working in the kitchen at a young age. So I was making pie doughs and pies at 8 years old. So I was very active in the kitchen. So of course, that's my career choice, right? So I love pastry, I love cooking in general. So I went to culinary school a little while after high school, like maybe 5 years later, and in Vermont. And then after 2 years of culinary school, I ended up moving to Los Angeles, where I stayed for 25 years. And I worked for the Peninsula Hotel as their pastry baker at night. So I did all the croissants and danishes and scones and biscuits and all that kind of fun stuff. But the graveyard shift. So some of you may end up on the graveyard shift one night, or one year or two. And it's very interesting. You meet some really interesting people. So anyway, after that, I ended up working at Universal Studios in Hollywood as their head cake decorator. Cakes have been something that I've done most of my life, and I love doing it. I was able to make a lot of really cool cakes for celebrities, including Betty White's 90th birthday cake, all kinds of great celebrity cakes and event cakes. I also worked at Santa Anita Racetrack as their executive pastry chef. That restaurant alone fed 600 people. The Turf Club, 1,800 people, and 54 food stands throughout the complex. We had walkie-talkies. It was so big so we could communicate with our staff, and golf carts to get from one end to the other because it was so big. But I love mass production. I love all aspects of food. I also was a teacher in a ground school for 10 years in Pasadena. We'll just call that Brand X. And so I did that. And so that's where I really honed in my teaching skills. And because of my passion for baking and my knowledge over all the years and having a diverse background, it was very comfortable for me to be in front of students and talk about everything, every technique. And again, my life is an open book. So you guys can ask me anything, anytime, any question, just throw it at me. I welcome that kind of stuff. You can ask me the same question 45 times. I will give you the answer until it sinks in. So I'm patient that way, always have been. I live in Vermont now. I bought a house. I moved back. My mom's 86, so I'm kind of back here because I wanted to be near her while she's still active in her older years so that, something happens. You don't want to be 3,000 miles away. So she's still baking, of all things, at 86. So I kind of help her out, and we kind of do some stuff in the kitchen together, so that's a lot of fun. So I'm back here. I got to co-write a cookbook, so that was great for pastries. I've done a lot of consulting for other bakeries. I got to open a bakery completely from scratch. So I've been a little bit everywhere. And I will talk about food constantly. You guys will see me get very excited and then get very distracted. It's like, ooh, squirrel, like it's that kind of thing. So please bear with me. I get very excited about all kinds of things related to food and what you guys are doing in general too. So I hope you guys are excited about food as I am. And let me tell you this, if you guys wake up every morning and have breakfast and then you start thinking of your next meal, you're in the right place because that's what we do, right? We think about food constantly. So if you're like, food, I don't really need it, then I would start to question some things, okay? But if you are like the foodie that just wants to like think of your next meal while you're full with the first one, then you're definitely in the right place, okay? So I'll shut up now and give it to Chef Jen, who is your awesome evaluator. Hey, Chef.
Hi. Well, it's kind of hard to follow that resume. I'm just going to say I haven't done all that. I have had a lot of fun in the baking. I did a lot of self teaching. Um, I used to be very creative. I did a lot of cake pops with decorations and stuff on there. And that just really left me kind of empty. I wanted more. So I was a paralegal for years, and then I took some years off and raised my kids and got them all off into school. And my husband looked at me and goes, "What are you going to do now?" And I was like, "Well, I can do this." And he was like, "Why did I ask?" But I had a really good experience. I am a graduate of Escoffier, like I mentioned, in orientation, um, this program specifically, and it works well. Okay. Um, I've managed a bakery up until I couldn't juggle it along with this job. So I recently left there and have dedicated myself, to bringing up future pastry chefs. And that's what I really love to do the most, is being here to help. Um, I did do some of the tutoring before Francie came in and saved the day. Um, but most of the time, most of all the classes that you're going to go through, I have been through, done that, and I'm here to help. Okay. So please never hesitate about reaching out, because I am truly here to help you guys.
Thank you, Chef. That was awesome. You'll find out more about us as we move through the weeks too. We can't give it all to you at once. Too much. Francie, you're up next.
Well, that just seems sort of unfair to follow the two of you.
Nonsense.
Oh my. I am a graduate of Escoffier as well, and I think Chef Jen was kind of finishing up as I was starting, and I have been cooking and baking my entire life with my great-grandmother and grandmother and my mom, and my mom had a catering business, so I've been around food for a long, long time, and so it's really fun to be on this side. I loved the program, and I'm excited for all of you as well. So I'm here to help you with your baker's math, which you will soon find out about in weeks 2 and 3, and all of your core classes. My information is at the top of your class page, and I've actually spoken to a couple of you already. I am available very more than what my schedule would show. My cell number is there. My email is there. You can always reach out to me, shoot me a text, call me, whatever. So I'm here as well to help you however I can as you move along here.
Thank you very much, Chef. And we will, you and I will talk maybe tomorrow about a schedule for week 2 when we want to do like a bonus class. So maybe do a couple of those to help everybody with the baker's math. So we'll definitely be getting into that next week. And then I'll show them your information as well when I go through the homepage, just where you have your number and emails and all that stuff too. Do you still have like that scheduler that you can send out to the class, or is that gone now? You remember the old scheduler?
It's there, so there's an appointment there, and I typically tutor on Monday evenings, Tuesday afternoons into early evenings, and Friday mornings. So if there are sort of last minute problems before assignments are due, you can reach out, but you can absolutely make an appointment on there. But if there isn't a time that's convenient for you, call me.
Okay. Thank you very much, Francie. Okay, good. I'm just looking at the count. So we're about 98 people now. That's wonderful. And we should get started, right, Chef?
Absolutely.
All right. So here's the deal. So because there's 100 of you, well, now it's 100, because there's 100 of you in the class, so that's great. We love that participation. Hoping to see 250 eventually. But because there's so many of you guys in the class, I want to have you guys hold off on the questions. It's not like we're trying to be jerks and like ignore you. Of course, you can ask some questions in the Slack. As far as the Slack, or not the Slack, sorry, but the chat window, It's like, give me some slack. In the chat window, you guys, of course, can ask questions. Chef Jen's pretty much in there manning those, so sometimes I'll throw a bone to Chef Jen, and then she'll be like, wait, I'm focused on the students in there. So we have to just be patient with that interaction. And also keep in mind, if you guys start talking about things, I love talking about food, as you guys know already. But when you start talking about things like, oh, I made these cookies this weekend, and then 10 people in the class start talking about the cookies, then you're not really listening to what we're saying in the class. So I want to make sure that you're focusing on what your instructor and evaluators are saying during the live session. So try not to get too caught up in the chat box initially, especially when you're learning all these new techniques and ways to deal with online thinking, okay? So just be careful with that. And then hold your questions, please, until the end of class, because what I'll do is probably answer most of your questions as we go through, because we're pretty thorough here. And if I don't, of course, then we will take questions at the end. And then if you don't get your question answered by this hour, 1 hour class, then please, you can reach out to Chef Jen or myself and ask, email, text, whatever, that's fine. Chef Jen, yes.
I want to address something real quick before you get going in the lesson. Students already put in the chat that they're afraid of negative feedback, okay? I want you guys to understand, we are not here to pounce on you. We are here to kind of uplift and promote you and bring your skills up. So any of the constructive criticism that we give, please don't take it in a negative way. Please take it in a positive way, because we are truly trying to help you become the best pastry chefs that you can be. But you have to listen to that feedback. If you don't listen to it, then you don't know where you need to grow, okay? So just look at it as a little bit more positive than negative, because you're gonna hear me, and the way I'm talking to you now, I'm probably going to be a little bit more relaxed and comfortable talking to you one-on-one in your feedback. And I'll tell you funny stories and stuff like that too. So please listen to it. Please don't think anything I say is mean, because I'm not trying to be mean. I just want to help you elevate and get you where you want to go. And that's with all of us evaluators. We're not Gordon Ramsay or any of those guys.
You're not?
No.
Okay.
I don't cuss at my students, you know, others maybe.
Only on Fridays when it's raining.
No.
No. Okay. Yeah, you're right. We're not here to scream at you guys. You are in a learning environment. So we know a lot of you are doing an online environment for the first time. So we're very understanding of that. So that's why when I start talking about due dates and stuff, we're going to kind of go over some of these factors that may come into play that will be helpful for you guys throughout the first couple weeks, especially, right? So when you are getting feedback, though, when you are getting feedback, it's important that you, like Chef Jen said, listen to it. You know how many people do not listen to their feedback and they just move on to the next week? And you're missing all these important tidbits of information. So many important things and suggestions. So not only is Chef Jen going through and grading what she sees and critiquing it in a very fair way, okay, like she always does, but she's also adding suggestions, like, why don't you try this? Or when you're working with a formula, why don't you try these add-ins? Or why don't you try switching this? So these little tips can be really helpful for you. So you're missing out if you're not listening to it, okay? So please do. Keeping in mind that we're not just here to just kind of hold your hand and say, like, good job and a pat on the back every time you submit something. So we are looking at it and critiquing it very fairly and not in any mean-spirited way. So take that information. You got to have a tough skin. Not that Chef Jen's going to scream at you, but you got to have a tough skin, and then go learn from that and fix it is all we're asking. If we were to hand out A's like candy, how would that make you as an employee when you left the school, right? People would be, well, I got straight A's in school, but maybe still, you know, there's things that need to be worked on. So if we just handed out A's, you know, like they were money or whatever, then, you know, you would be singing a different tune when you go out and work, because your boss may be saying, like, well, how'd you get all these A's when this is what I'm seeing you do for work? So we want to make sure that we fix that and make sure that you guys get the correct techniques and understand how they work. So they're so embedded in your heads that when someone says to you creaming method or two-stage method or straight dough method, you don't even have to look up the procedure. You just need the ingredients and you know how to put it together. So that's what we want to see you guys, like, hit the ground running when you leave. So we'll talk about that a little bit more as we go through the weeks, but I just wanted to touch on it that, you know, we're not the school that hands out A's just because. I want to make sure that you guys earn your grades. own your grades and make sure that you're on top of them. So check your grade book constantly, check your grades, make sure that you got everything submitted each week. If something seems off to you, reach out to me, reach out to Chef Jen, so that we can make sure we get it corrected, okay? So with that said, Chef, are we ready to get started?
Let's get started.
Okay.
Okay.
Remember, we're going to take questions at the end.
It wasn't a question. It was just something what y'all was saying.
Yeah.
And that I'm a former student, and about the feedback, it's not how you said. I'm sorry. It's not like constructive criticism. It really helped me through culinary, because I didn't want you guys saying, "Oh, that looked good," or I didn't even put like, "Oh, in the sheets that we had to analyze, I never put that, oh, all my food was good and this and that." You have to say, I just want them to tell them that you have to put where you mess up at to get that help. And it really helped,
Honesty is the best policy, right?
Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you for that. Thank you for that. That was nice, because you were a student, so you know. Right. It's okay to make mistakes. Just acknowledge them in your narrative. Yes. All right, Chef, let's do it. How do I do this again? No, kidding.
Start with week 1.
Okay. I'm looking at this like you guys would look at it. So I kind of switched my instructor view to a student view. So you guys are seeing it the same way you would, so that you're not seeing a bunch of stuff in there that doesn't make any sense to you. So I don't want to confuse anybody. At least not the first week. We'll say that for the second week. So right here, you guys may have noticed that I put this jump to week in. You may not have seen it before, but this is kind of handy because you can just pop into each week just by clicking on that instead of scrolling down through 300 pages, okay? You will see a syllabus here. And the syllabus is very important because it is like the benchmark, it is the footprint, it is the rules and regulations, how your grades work, how attendance works, how assignments work, everything that you need to possibly know. It's a little dry reading, I have to admit, but it's very important. So I'll highlight a couple things that I want you guys to see in it, but I won't bore you with the whole thing. You should just read through it at least once on your own. Keep in mind the weight of the grades changes per class. So your core class may have a different weight for assignments than your practical class. Some practical classes may have a different weight than other practical classes, okay? So it's not gonna be the same all the time, but most of the wording in there as far as assignments and all that stuff will be the same for each class. Just the weight changes. Professional baking, a lot of people were like, do I have to buy a textbook? Where's my textbook? You don't buy a textbook unless you want to. It is the 7th edition Wayne Gislin Professional Baking. If you do want to buy it, they have them on Amazon. They range used from like $40 all the way up to new for like $200. So if you want a hard copy, then you can buy one. That's up to you guys. It's not necessary. Chef Jen, you have probably some good advice on that too. I know you make copies maybe.
I say something about the textbooks because I actually ordered a hard copy online.
Okay.
If you go on textbook.com, instead of buying a new one for like $117, you can get them for like $96.
For a new one?
Yeah.
That's really good. All right. Can you type that in the chat for us?
Sure can.
Thank you for the helpful hint. Now, again, the textbook is not required. I know, Chef Jen, I think you made copies maybe?
I actually just downloaded the PDFs from each week, and then I would print them out, punch them with a 3-hole punch, and then just stick them in a binder. That way I could write all over it, and if I needed to reprint that page because, say, I spilt my chocolate all over it that week, I could just go back and print another one, and I still have a clean book. So that's what I did.
Okay. And then for those of you that don't want to, you're not going to blow through ink because it's expensive and paper, absolutely, you just have to, you can do screenshots of things. You can just write down the important things that you need to know. You can just print out like one page if you want to. So you guys decide how you want to do it, but that's where you're going to find it. And it's a big book. It's got a lot going on in it, but there is an index so you can find out exactly where you need to be and just scroll until you get to the pages that you want. But here is your resource, okay, for most of the stuff that we do in school. Some things I'm going to say, do some outside research, and then some things we will follow the book exactly. So it's going to vary from week to week. So you're in an online program. We're not just going to say like, these are the recipes that you have to make, and this is the end of the story. We're going to be talking more about techniques and methods, and then you guys will be playing off from that. So as long as you meet the required method that we're talking about that week, you're not going to necessarily have to make what's in that textbook. You may have another version that you've already made that you would like to try that fits the category that week, and then you're totally welcome to do that. But we'll talk about that as we go through too. So week 1, it's an orange. We're going to be cutting an orange, end of story. There's nothing else there. But week 2, things will start to change a little bit. So keep going down through here. So you have your textbook. You have the end of user agreement. You just have to review that. Sometimes there's like a little click on the bottom just to accept it. And then sometimes there's nothing there. But it's just to read it, just to know the copyright of the book, right? So you're not making copies of this and selling it or doing any of that kind of stuff. Everything here is in the agreement. Weekly inventory. This is very helpful. So click on that, of course, and you're going to look and see tools needed and ingredients needed for each week. So that's a wonderful tool. So hopefully you guys have been poking around. Remember, you can't break any of this stuff, so click on all of it, right? Really get yourself familiar with it. Down here, how to hold a knife properly. It's going to just pull up a picture. I could pull all this stuff up, but I want you guys to get in there and do it so that you can actually see for yourself. Temporary dress code. I'm going to show you guys that shortly. Contents of the full pastry kit. That's after all your financial aid is 100% submitted and complete. That will all take place. Your final kit will be shipped to you by the end of week 4. You'll get the initial kit this week, you know, depending on how the financial aid situation is going, and then you will get the rest of it in week 4. And then some people have different circumstances and different ways of dealing it with the school financially, so maybe you get your stuff sooner. So everybody has a different story, but keep in mind you're not getting it all at once. Most of you are not getting it all at once, but you will get it. That's just to show you what's inside. So when you click on that and look at it, then you'll be able to see like, oh, maybe I have some of these at home already, or maybe I'm excited to get this toolkit because I don't have any of this stuff. So you may have some duplicates, you may not, but that's okay. Nothing wrong with that. Ask your questions here. So some of you guys have been asking your questions in here, and honestly, I check it once a day, and that's usually in the morning. So if you're asking a question at noon, and you may not get an answer till the next morning. So my suggestion would be to email me or text me what that question is. I can answer you 10 times faster that way than going into the cafe, okay? If I feel like the same question is coming in all the time, then obviously I will put something in there just so that it kind of answers the question for everybody. But feel free to go in there. There's some other helpful information on mixing flours and measurements and things like that. So, and from time to time, I'll add some stuff in there, some content for you guys to read and check out, okay? And if you have any pictures of stuff you've done, if you want to post them in there, and you know how some students form like a Facebook group? Well, Francie and Chef Jen and myself, we are not allowed to be part of your Facebook because of our fraternization policy, but you can go into the Ask Your Questions here and you can post some pictures and talk to other students there and show off some of the work that maybe you've done before you come to school. I'm totally fine with that, okay? All I ask is that you're respectful of each other and your opinions are not spiteful in any way, so everything is like a good environment. And believe me, I'll police it and delete anything I see quickly. So just, if you want to use that as a little place to chat with each other, it's totally cool. Tutoring. We're getting to tutoring. It's Francie. So tutoring here is with Chef Francie, of course. There is her number and her email. And you may not think you need too much tutoring this week. You never know. Maybe you need some help with the Google Drive. But week 2, when we start getting into Baker's Math, probably going to keep her very busy. I have a feeling. And again, Francie and I will do a couple classes together on Baker's Math so that we can kind of address a lot of those questions. And they will be recorded so that you guys can watch them 1,000 times after, just so it sinks in, okay? Anything you want to add here, Francie?
No, I just saw somebody in the chat asked about whether or not tutoring was free, and it is. It is available to all of you. And the only thing that I just ask is that if you make an appointment and can't make it, either let me know. I always, the day before, send you an email and a text reminder. And just because there are other students that want the time, really to be respectful to everybody, I just ask that you let me know if you can't make it. Certainly things come up, but if you could just go ahead and
Give notice.
yep, that would be wonderful. And we usually have about an hour, and sometimes I meet with people every week, or, you know, just a handful of times. It really just depends, but whatever you need, I'll try and help.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that. And yes, please be respectful of Francie's schedule. And if you have to cancel, plenty of notice, please, okay? Oh, look over here on the right side of my screen. You guys see this picture of my mug right here. And then down below has my email. And then if you see here, it also says, use this number to call me. So we have this fancy thing called air call. And so if I don't answer, you can leave a voicemail and I'll call you back. And if I'm right in front of my computer, I answer it. And then we can talk. But if you want to text me anything too, the number is different. So please try not to call my text number or text my call number, because then everything gets messed up. So if you need to text me, it's that one with the 5860. That is the perfect way, because I can text you from no matter where I am in the world. I can just be like, answer your question quickly. So texting is my fastest way of responding to you. Email is my second fastest way. And then the class cafe or ask your questions here is the slowest way of getting your questions answered. All right, so just be aware of that. I don't want these stupid pop-ups. All right, Chef Jen, make it go away. Okay. Week one. He's like, what? I just got here. No. You have research materials here. So when you click on this, and I'm going to show you all of this, don't worry. When you click on this, it's going to have some segments from your textbook. So it may have just a couple chapters highlighted that pertain to this particular week or that particular week. So that kind of narrows it down a little bit for you there. So you'll find more of your textbook information in small snippets in that area. You will also find videos in there for how to do things, and then some extras in there as well. Your knowledge check is a way of posting attendance, which is very important here that you guys are current all the time with your attendance. So with a knowledge check, it's going to ask you, sometimes it's only 5 questions, sometimes it's 15 questions. They're usually multiple choice. And with these knowledge checks, the information will be found in your research materials. And a lot of you guys have been asking me, like, I went through the research material and the reading, but there's questions about pathogens and, you know, as far as foodborne illness and things like that, that are not in the reading. Yes, that is correct. So keep this in mind when you guys are doing the knowledge checks. Do the reading first. You can do the knowledge check first and see how you do without doing the reading. Because guess what? You can do them 100 times. You can do them 200 times. I don't know about 200 times, but you can do them as many times as you want until you get the right answer, okay? Why settle for 20% when you can get the full 100% out of your knowledge check? And they do add up at the end, right? So we want to make sure that you're doing them each week. It not only posts your attendance, but it refreshes your memory about the reading, which when we get to weeks 11 and 12, you're going to have a final written exam, which is going to reflect on all those knowledge checks. So the more you read them now and get them embedded into your skulls, the better you're going to be for that final exam later on. So why isn't the reading containing all the questions or all the answers to the questions? Because we want you guys to do some outside research too. So keep in mind, a lot of the reading will cover the answers to the knowledge check and some of it will not. So you will need to go ahead and look it up. Google, look it up. Find out what the answer is. Put it in there. Take a couple stabs at it and see if you get the right answer. Remember, you can do it over and over. Okay, so that's why you're not seeing everything there. We want you guys to branch out and do your own research as well. Right, chefs?
Absolutely. It is open book. That means it's also open internet. You know, but just make sure your sources that you're pulling from are good sources.
Exactly. Now, let's talk about the assignment. You guys ready for that?
I think they are, because they got a lot of questions about that assignment.
Okay, it's not so bad. Oh, I got to talk about this. I forgot I got to talk about the stuff that we don't want to talk about. Okay, so we'll do this really fast. When you guys are on camera like you are right now, please make sure that you are mute when not speaking. Dress appropriately. So that means, you know, a simple t-shirt on, If you're not in your chef's coat, make sure that you're in appropriate clothing, you know, a nice top or whatever. No eating on the camera, no smoking, no driving. That's a tough one. I see people on the freeway going 80 miles an hour with their phone, and you see the sky and you see cars. No, it's too distracting to the class. No walking around with your camera, because that's distracting too. It makes me very dizzy. And if I get dizzy, then I can't deliver the message, and then you know how that goes. Then Chef Jen has to do everything else. So please be respectful of that. No grooming on camera, so you're not putting on, you know, makeup and combing your hair and brushing your teeth and other things that could be happening. And then if we're really boring, just turn your camera off. If you find us too boring where you need to fall asleep, just turn your camera off so that we don't see you snoozing. I've seen students like with their face kind of crushed up against the screen almost, like sound asleep and snoring, and we had to shut off their camera. True story. So just be aware of that. Okay. What else, Chef? I got another one here somewhere. This is what I want to talk to you about, your syllabus. So read through this. You'll find it under all those resources. And then down here, discussion forums. So we'll have a few of those coming up. We'll talk about those. And you will be doing, this is 10% of your grade. So that's pretty heavy. Lab assignments. So that's like the orange assignment this week. All of those count together as 60% of your total grade. So 60% out of 100. Homework are your lessons or your knowledge checks. Those are 15%. And then your final exam is 15%. So let's say you didn't do any of the homework. That's 15%. Those are the lessons, the knowledge checks. And you didn't do the discussion forums. That's 25% total. So if you did your lab assignments and final exam perfectly, you would still be looking at a 75% for your final grade. That means you missed 25% of the work. So you would end up getting a C in the class, which would really be a shame. So make sure that you are paying attention to the weight of all these assignments and that you're doing them each week. And then just read down through here. This is how we grade, of course. A's are 90 to 100, B's are 80 to 89, and so on. Okay. And then just keep scrolling down. This breaks down the activity, the lectures, the lab, the homework, the overall total of time that you're putting in here. Attendance policy, making sure that your attendance is always current and that you are logging in constantly and doing work and submitting your work. Makeup policies, all these things are down here as well. So we're making a few changes with the makeup policies, and we're going to allow you guys a little bit more freedom in the first couple weeks as far as your submissions go. Chef Jen, did you want to say anything about that?
Sure. Okay. So everyone knows our deadline for assignments being submitted on time is Tuesday nights at 11:59 p.m. Central Standard Time. You're going to hear us say that like a gazillion and billion times. So just go ahead and program Tuesday night, 11:59 Central Standard Time in your mind. You will have a full week to do those assignments, but we also understand life happens, okay? So we've allotted in a 12-week class 3 makeup assignments, okay? You only get 3. So you really want to use them wisely. You do have a late period, which is through Thursday night at 11:59 p.m. Central Standard Time. See the pattern? So if you submit on Wednesday or Thursday, it's automatically going to take 15 points off of your grade, okay? And I don't know any of you guys that just want to give away 15 points, right? So my suggestion, and this will save you some headaches along the way, shoot for Sundays to submit your work. If you can get it to me on Sunday, I can whip it around pretty quick and get it back to you. And you still have time to make any adjustments if you miss something. But you only want to use those makeup assignments as a last resort, okay? Because like I said, you got 3 of them, and they got to last you 12 weeks. So if you burn them the first 3 weeks, you're going to be in trouble maybe further down if life happens to happen.
Amen to that. Yes. So try not to be late. Try not to submit late, because the sooner you get your work in, the faster it gets graded. And then if there's anything that we need to change, like Chef's been saying, you know, we have time to do that. So the assignments in the beginning, they kind of go like this a little bit. So some weeks are going to be a little heavier, some weeks a little bit lighter. but you'll see. And it's all designed for your, because you're beginners. So it's all designed that way. So we're very patient. So please understand that, okay? This isn't going to be like the military where everything has to be like perfect instantly. We understand this is new. So let me keep going. There's so much stuff. All right, here's the assignment itself. And here in the assignment, if you take a look, you're going to see required proof. Photos taken at specific points of production. So we are going to be removing the skin and the pith from an orange and cutting the segments away from the membrane that holds them together. So we need proof of photos of your work. So you're going to take an ID photo, and that's going to be in your temporary dress code. And if you're not sure what that is, it's in your reading, right? I have a link to it, the temporary dress code. So just remember, hair always gets covered either in a bandana or a skull cap or a hat, something nondescript, right? No crazy logos on it and stuff. You have your chef coat on. If you don't have your chef coat, then a temporary uniform would be like a plain t-shirt with no decals on it. Very simple. No fingernails. If you take your hands and hold them up like this and you can see your fingernails above the skin on the end of your fingertips, then they're too long. They need to be cut. So fingernails need to be short. It's a bacterial growth nightmare, and it is not acceptable in bakeries or restaurants. So make sure that you, even at home, have those cut. Nail polish, acrylics, decals, all that stuff has to go. They have to be nice, natural nails. We see them because you're holding product, you're always in a photo, your photo ID, we can kind of see all that stuff. Make sure you're wearing pants like denim jeans or like Dickies or some type of pant that is just a plain, dress pant. Doesn't matter, whatever you have, but make sure you're wearing pants. And make sure you have shoes on that are closed-toed, no open toes. We see a lot of people take photos of their stuff, and then all of a sudden we look down on the floor and we see your toes. So that's a no-no. So make sure that doesn't happen. So you got your ID photo, and it can just be from like the chest area up, okay? So that we just need to see like your head. And then Chef, I think you guys have some good advice about how to make sure that's not the same photo every week.
Yes, they're wonderful little things called Post-it notes. You can write week 1 on it, or if you want to pretend this was a whisk, your whisk, you could do that, and then switch it up each week. Put something different in there, because you do have to have a brand new self-ID every week, and I unfortunately can spot repeats. So if you want the points, please take 2 seconds and go cheese and snap your little picture, okay? Trust me, I did it even on my worst looking days. It was like, I don't want to take a picture, but if I want the points, I have to do it. And that's like 10 points, 5 or 10 points. So again, easy points if you just take that picture.
This is true. All right. So you got your photo, your kitchen setup, your work surface is secure with your cutting board, sanitizing bucket, and test strips. If you don't have your test strips, that's these little guys, right? The test strip. Can you see this okay? Yeah, this is a little vial with your test strips. Make sure the cover stays on and that they don't get wet. So we'll talk about the solution in a second. Your side towel, these are for wiping things down. You can have a damp one and a dry one, I suggest. Mise en place. So mise en place, of course, is having everything in its place. So you have everything in front of you when you get ready to start the project. And then your knife is held properly peeling of the orange, and then your finished product on a clean plate for presentation. I also suggest that you put your peelings and scraps in the photo as well so that we can see them, because we want to see if you've left a lot of the meat of the fruit on the skin. So if you have pictures of that, we can kind of see. We can kind of tell by the shape of the orange when you're done cutting too, but to see the scraps is very helpful. So throw those in the photo too, that would be great. Okay. Sound good, Chef?
Yes, sorry. I'm responding here. Don't be afraid to show me more pictures than what we're asking for too. The more I can see that's going on, the more I understand what's happening. So please don't ever think that you're sending me too many photos, because in this instance, there's not too many.
Excellent. This is how we set up our station. So I don't know if you guys have taken the time to look at this video yet under your resources, but here we go. This is Chef Susie. And We'll watch this. It's about 3 or 4 minutes. A damp towel, that's D-A-M-P, damp towel, underneath your cutting board will keep things from slipping. And if you have any of that bar mat stuff, like they use in bars to keep the glasses from touching the wood or metal, or some people use them in their shelves for liners, those work really well too to keep your cutting board from sliding around. A good question came up in an email about wooden cutting boards versus plastic. I prefer plastic cutting boards because they don't absorb moisture, they dry quickly, they don't harbor bacteria, and you can throw them in the dishwasher if you have one, so they really get sanitized in there. Wooden ones, you need to make sure that they're washed with hot soapy water and dried thoroughly and allowed to air dry. If you were to put them in a cabinet somewhere between something else, they could mold. So wooden ones are okay. I mean, you can use them in the photo, just make sure that you're cleaning them properly. So for the concentration, we like to start out small, like 2 cups or 16 ounces of room temperature water, okay? And then about a 1/4 teaspoon, that's 1/4 teaspoon of bleach, like Clorox bleach. Mix that together and use your sanitizer strip. And then what we're looking for is, you see the little color code here, we're looking for between 50 and 100 parts per million. So it's gonna be this really kind of medium lavender or purple color that's in between, and you can just kind of match it up here. Now, if you don't have these yet, you can still mix up that formula, 16 ounces of water with the bleach, and just have a towel. And in your narrative, which we'll talk about shortly, you can just mention that you don't have these yet, okay? Worst case scenario, if you don't have anything like that and you have a container of those Clorox antibacterial wipes, you can use those in the photo until you get these, okay? So those are a good acceptable substitute for now. I'm gonna speed Susie up a little bit. All right, there we go. This may seem like common sense to some people, and then some people that haven't really handled knives in their lives, it's important that you have a lot of respect for it because they are sharp. Especially the ones you're getting in your kit eventually are going to be really sharp. So when you are using a knife, like this is like a small chef's knife or utility knife, you're going to hold the knife, you're going to grab it with your fist like this and hold it up close to the blade. You never put your finger on top. I don't know if you guys ever watched Worst Cooks, but Chef Ann Burrell always coats the finger in red marker. So it's true. This will become tired very quickly. So you just want to choke up on the handle close to the blade and grab it like this. You want the blade to be an extension of your arm so that's very comfortable when you're working. If you hold it way back here like this, it's going to have poor leverage and you're going to get very tired and you're not going to be able to cut things properly. And if anyone ever tells you it's okay as a pastry chef not to have good knife skills, they're full of CRA, you know what, because everybody should have good knife skills. And that just comes with practice. So that was a little bit bigger knife. And then this is a paring knife. which can also be used, it's a lot smaller, used for this kind of peeling of the orange. So if you're more comfortable with a small knife, then that's fine. If you're more comfortable with a larger knife, it's fine. You have the same results from both. It's all about your comfort. Keep the blade away from you, always facing away on the cutting board, not anywhere near you or having any part of it hanging over the counter, because if kids or animals come through, they could knock it on the floor, and if anyone's barefoot, guess what? You get, you know, your foot stabbed. Notice the chef cut the ends off first. That's to stabilize the citrus so that it doesn't roll around. And then you are following the contour, and you're going to cut between the flesh, which is the orange part, and the pith, which is the white part, the bitter part. So you're going to be cutting in between that. And I honestly, if you can buy like 3, 4, 5 oranges and practice and then use the best one for your photos, that's great. If they still don't come out perfect after like doing a few, submit what you have so that we can look at it and give you feedback, okay? We're not expecting perfection here. We just want you guys to understand this method of supreming. And if you're wondering what supreme means, it's not like Diana Ross in the Supremes or Supremes. It's more like super or the best. The supreme in French means like the best of. So you're getting the best part of the citrus. You're taking away the skin, the pith, and the membrane, and you're getting just the heart of it. Guys, there's 2 videos available for you to watch, and you can go on YouTube and look at these all day long too. But this one here, Chef is being very careful in cutting the segments out on the cutting board. There's another video in your resources too that's a little bit shorter. It's like 1.5 minutes, and that one is holding it in your hand and cutting. So whichever way you feel more comfortable, I don't want you guys to hurt yourselves. Not the first week anyway. So please just decide what's the safest way for you to do it. What's up, Chef?
I was just going to say, I want to see everyone leave with the number of fingers that they come in with, as well as the number of toes that they come in with. Okay? Right. I don't want anybody going out missing something. Everybody's got to have all body parts when they leave and graduate. So.
Yeah. Then you'll be walking around all day going like, high 4. Yeah. No. Okay, and another thing too, when you're done with that massive orange with no segments left in it, you can squeeze out that juice and drink it, or you can make a really good salad dressing with it and toss your segments in a salad. It's delicious, so don't waste it, right? And then compost what's left, because I know you're all composters. Sorry, it's the Vermont in me. Everybody composts here. So that's that, and then we need to talk a little bit about the narrative and production sheet that goes along with it. So I'll show you where to find that right now. So when you look at your assignment, where it has all the photo ID and all the other photos that you need to take for this, you're going to see in red narrative and production sheet. So you're going to click on that, and it's going to ask you to make a copy, okay? And then Chef Jen is going to talk you through that. Stop sharing, Chef. You're muted.
I knew that. Just trying to see if y'all were paying attention. All right, so I was pulling up my other screens. All right, so trying to get my thing moving here. Okay, here we go. So when you make a copy, what it's going to do is it's going to ask you to save it, okay? So I am going to pull up and share my screen so we can walk through this. Why is it not letting me share, Chef Paul? Oh, there we go. It's a little slow, I guess. Okay, so it says make a copy. You just click on that little button. There we go. And it automatically copies it to your drive, okay? Everybody's got Google Drive now, so it's automatically just going to throw it in to your Google Drive. What you're going to want to do, this is a very important one because you're going to end up losing it if you don't. You want to come to File, and you want to click Move, okay? Now, you went through and extracted all the files, so you have the BK101 folder. When you click on that, you've got weeks 1 through 12, correct? Okay. You're going to click on your week 1, and you're going to hit, you see the Move button highlighted. So you're just going to click on Move. So it's going to automatically move it over to your folder for you. All right. Let me stop sharing for a second, get my other screen.
Chef, do you usually label it first, or you just do it after it's in the new folder?
I just move it first. And then what I do is, let me share this screen. All right, so then here it is. Here's all of your photos. And the green, I went through and highlighted because these are the parts you're going to have to fill out, okay? We want your name, the date, the assignment, name, kitchen setup, and knife skills. That's what week 1 is, so that's what you put there. The hours per day, I don't need to know how many hours you're reading or stuff like that, but you can put that in there. I did 2 hours on Wednesday, an hour on Friday, and I submitted my assignment on Saturday. So with the grocery shopping, the reading, the knowledge checks, I just went ahead and included all the time, but again, you don't have to.
Can I ask something quick about this part?
Mm-hmm.
Because I need to know if I need to redo mine. So with the ingredients, it says orange, and mine didn't have the option to put each. So I actually weighed my orange. I put amount 1 and then, or I put like ounces or something like that, and I weighed my orange. Is that okay, or do I need to redo it?
That's fine.
Okay.
But there is a little drop down menu, and it'll say grams or ounces, and that's why mine has the little error up here. It says invalid because I typed it in.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm. Here under your mise en place, you want to list every single ingredient you're going to use. Week 1, you're lucky. It's an orange. You know, can't beat that. So real easy this week. Next week, you're going to have a little bit more to add in. Since we're not baking or using our oven, just put NA, but the weeks that you are using it, again, you're going to want to fill that out because the temperature that you're baking on and the hours or the minutes that you're baking for is really going to give me a good idea of over baking, temperature not being high enough or it being too high when something goes wrong. Now, your method of production, these are your words. Please do not copy and paste from the formula. We want you to read through the method of production that is provided in the formula that you're working on. And then we want you to paraphrase them. So like I said, sanitizer solution, kitchen cleanup, gathered my mise en place, carefully cut the ends off so that it sat securely without rolling around. Following the contour of the orange, cut the peel and the pith away, and then cut each segment from the membranes, place orange segments in a creative way on the plate, okay? I didn't go through and list each and every detail that was out there. I just kind of followed through. Sorry, I have a mosquito, I guess, flying. I just kind of followed through with everything in my own words. Then you've got other questions down here. And tell me what you're seeing, what you're feeling, what you're smelling, what you're touching, okay? Let me know as much about your product that you are putting together that you possibly can. If you don't know the exact words that you're looking for, get me close, okay? Because when we're talking during your feedback, we're gonna have more dialogue there. After baking, you know, or after, in this case, cutting the orange, tell me what you're seeing, hearing, or smelling, the whole 9 yards. Each week, I want you to find something positive about your experience, okay? There's got to be something. It's not all horrible, but if it is, everything just went on me, just say, hey, at least I turned it in. You know, give me something positive, okay? But I also want to know your challenges. Let me know the places that you had a hard time. For instance, when I did this, my biggest challenge was holding that knife properly because I'd been taught for so many years, hold it the wrong way. So you want to go through and list your challenges. Any questions for your evaluator, it's, as you can see, I've highlighted it yellow because it's optional. If you've got questions for me or Chef Paul, put them in there. And if it's directed towards Chef Paul, I can forward it over to him. Or if I know the answer, I'll give you my answer, okay? And then it asks you if you were to do it again differently next time, what would you do? You know, maybe you wouldn't use the large chef knife. Maybe you would go down to a paring knife. This section is also important because we want you to build your vocabulary with your flavor profiles. So we want you to tell us aroma. Give us what you're smelling. Breaking it down, you know, I did floral because of an orange bloom or orange blossom. And you're always getting the citrus, okay? Taste. Tell me if it's sweet, sour, tangy, you know, tell me what you're tasting and tell me how it feels in your mouth, okay? And each of these have little drop downs that you can use. 2 other questions here at the bottom. Again, tell me what you learned and then briefly describe your product to me. This briefly describe is very important because when you get to where you're looking at menus and trying to put your menu together, you want to be able to describe your product. So use me as your guinea pig. Sell me your products through your words, and we'll go from there, okay? And then lastly, this general notes and comments, of course, is optional. If you have multiple things in your mise en place that all doesn't fit up top, you can put it down here, any additional method of production as well. Okay, Chef Paul.
All right, thank you. There's some questions in the chat at the end. So I heard if you smell any produce strongly, it isn't good. So, and then there's one on umami, which is another sense, right? So it's very much in Japanese culture, and it's things that provide this unctuous taste or things, I'm kind of going all over the place. So things that provide a taste of savoriness, I want to say. Let me fix the screen here. Okay, so when you describe umami, it's things that are very earthy and that describe this incredible flavor. And it could come from things like tomato paste and from anchovies and from mushrooms or mushroom dust even. These are things that can really amp up the savoriness of a dish. So umami is like another sense. We don't refer to it as often in baking so much, but in savory cooking, absolutely. And then the question about produce smelling strongly. If you've ever smelled a banana that's way overripe, it smells very much like ammonia, like, right? It's starting to ferment and become an alcohol eventually, right? So all that carbohydrates and all the sugars in there are breaking down and becoming alcohol. So you get that strong, pungent smell. So that's not a good thing to use when you're cooking. But everything should smell like what it should smell like. A lemon should smell like a lemon. A cantaloupe should smell like a cantaloupe. A banana should smell just like a nice banana. If it smells off to you, then that's a big red flag to don't buy it, okay? It might be getting too old or overly ripe. And right now it's summertime, so we still have berries. We have beautiful melons out there. A lot of great produce coming in still. So buying things in its peak and knowing what to look for, is very important. So we'll cover those things too as we move forward, and what to buy in season and where things come from and all that stuff. So lots of good stuff to talk about. So that's good. Thank you, Chef Jen. So that kind of gives you guys a good idea about the narrative and production notes, how we want detail. Week 1 is a little bit iffy, but Chef gave you a really good example of how she did hers, so it should look very similar to that. Week 2 is going to be even more, because we're going to be making pancakes and crepes. So hold on to your seat, right? Because that's going to be an interesting week. So we're going to be doing a lot of mise en place. And that brings me to talking about ingredients real quick. I want to make sure that you guys know what to look for. So let me see if I can find that slide as we wrap things up. I know we're going to run over a few minutes, but that's okay. First week always does. Where did I put it?
While you're looking for that, there is one thing that we didn't discuss when going over the do's and don'ts, the stuff that we hate talking about.
Yes.
So real quick, guys, make sure your pictures and your words are yours, okay? We do cross-check things. We will see if it's been used on the internet. We've had pictures uploaded from the internet, so that we just ask that you please make sure it's your work. Even if it's not the greatest in the world, sometimes you have to cover your eyes and hit submit it to me. Let's talk about it, because plagiarism, unfortunately, it's a bad thing, and you don't want to have to hear from Chef Ann that way. Okay, she's a great woman. I love her to death. She's a lot of fun, but when she has to make those phone calls, they're hard to make, because we don't want to see anyone have to go that route. So just take your own pictures, do your own work, and we'll all be good to go.
Absolutely. Academic integrity is what it's called. And that simply means it has to be your work. So nothing gets shared. So no sharing with other students. You have to do the work yourself. Submitting your work yourself, nobody else submits it for you. So everything has to be your own. So some students sometimes are like roommates. And so it's very hard if you're in that situation to work in the same kitchen with the same utensils everywhere to keep things separate, but it needs to be separate. We can tell. And if you have a failure, like something doesn't work and you ran out of time, submit it anyway, because it's better to get a grade than no grade at all. And then if you submit it early, we still give you some time to work out the kinks. So that's a good thing. If you wait till the end because you're afraid, then you're going to lose a couple times. So let's not let that happen. And if you think, well, I can take a picture off Google Drive and submit it as my final photo, we can do that search in like 2 seconds and see that it comes from there. And believe me, I've seen so many pictures on Google Drive with eclairs and cookies and all that stuff. I can tell. So please make sure that it's your work. Good or bad, we want to see it, okay? There's no, we love mistakes. We learn from them. So please, I encourage mistakes, they're fun to eat too. So please just know that. Also using store-bought products. So I want to make sure that you guys aren't using anything store-bought. I am a firm believer that Cool Whip comes from below the bowels of this earth, and it is disgusting. So I don't ever want to see whipped cream in the form of Cool Whip. I can see that plastic fake substance from a mile away. Other things like Aunt Jemima or a Bisquick, those things for making biscuits and muffins may be good for some people, but you guys are culinary students and pastry students especially. You will be making things from scratch. Those boxes contain flour, sugar, and leaveners and salt anyway, and sometimes emulsifiers, things that you have in the house to make, so there's no reason to buy a box of anything. So make sure that it's your product. Everything is made from scratch in this school. And then next week I'll talk about mise en place and then show you examples of good mise en place and bad mise en place so that you get an idea what we're talking about. Last thing I was going to show you here was flowers, because I know you guys are probably starting to shop for next week already. And let me move this out of the way. So when you go in the supermarket, this is just like a picture of like a generic supermarket. And Certain things you will not find in an average supermarket, like Walmart, Target, superstores, or your generic supermarket that you have in your town. You'll most likely find all-purpose flour. It's the most common. Pastry flour, we use a lot of in our formulas here because of the protein content, and I'll get into protein and talk about flours as we move forward next week. But for today, if you're buying flour for next week's crepes and pancakes, then you're going to want to make pastry flour. So in the Ask Your Questions here, we have a little formula in there, how to make your own cake flour and how to make your own pastry flour, using things like bread flour and all-purpose flour, and using things like starches. So you can actually do your own blends. So make sure that you refer to that for that when you have to make pastry flour. Please don't go to 45 different stores and then send me a message saying like, I can't find pastry flour anywhere. I know, it's really hard to find. And you can order it online, but then you have to deal with shipping, and then it could be very costly. So I don't want you guys to spend a lot of money. So make your own pastry flour. So we're gonna do a simple blend of 2/3 all-purpose flour and 1/3 cake flour equals 1 cup of pastry flour. And it's in your Ask Your Questions here. So you guys can just refer to it there. It's always there for you. If you do forget later on, shoot me a message. I'll be happy to tell you again. I don't care. Cake flour is typically found in a box. It's not in a bag, and it's usually at the top of the flour section of the baking aisle. So you look up, you'll see Swansdown or King Arthur flour. Those are like the 2 main ones for cake flour. Has the lowest amount of protein in it. That's why we use it for cakes. It's nice and fluffy and soft. And then as we go down, you'll start to see bread flour, and there's different brands of bread flour, and those have a high protein in them, and they're designed to make things chewy, like a baguette, like a really good loaf of French bread, things that you don't want in a cake or a muffin when you want them to be nice and soft and tender. And then down below it says self-rising, and that's very popular in the southern part of the United States. Please don't buy self-rising flour. It has the chemical leaveners already in it, and you don't know how old those are or how evenly displaced they are in that bag. So I recommend that you get some fresh baking soda and baking powder, not the one from the refrigerator, that's gross. Fresh baking soda and fresh baking powder, check the expiration dates. We'll talk about how to test for making sure that they're freshest next week, and just start stocking up on that. When you see flour on sale, buy it, okay? You may see something called whole wheat pastry flour. Stay away from that, okay? Stay away from whole wheat flour right now until we start getting into that. Whole wheat flour has a whole different absorption rate, and whole wheat pastry flour is not the same as regular pastry flour. So we have to be careful with that. So if you're buying flours right now, buy all-purpose, buy bread, buy cake, make your own pastry. If you can't find cake flour, then you can use all-purpose flour and cornstarch, and there's a formula for that too in the Ask Your Questions here, okay? But you should be able to find cake flour. You just have to look up because it's always at the top shelf, okay? Right, Chef?
Absolutely. I'm the short one, so I always have problem getting my cake flour down off top. So I take my husband with me when I have to buy that because you can just.
Nice. So
Bread flour is easy.
Yeah. Yeah, I love, and then I just like stock up. And now with I call it the baking season is coming now. We're moving into September before you know it, and then October, and then all those fall spices will be coming into play, and it gets a little cooler in your house for those that don't have like air conditioning or central air, and you can start firing up the oven and doing a lot of baking for the holidays. So we're going to be together all the way up through September, so there'll be all kinds of fun stuff that we can talk about, and different formulas and things that we can post in that Ask Your Questions here, so we can share some recipes in there if you guys want to do that. And I have a lot of fun stuff for fall that I can post in there if you guys are interested. So good stuff. Any last questions, Chef, from the chat that you want to address?
People were asking where to keep the flour so the little bugs don't get in it. Freezer. You can put it in the freezer. And nothing will survive out there. If you have any food allergies, you need to speak with your instructors about that. Let us know, preferably Chef Paul, so he can go through that. Melissa has a question about the Good Working Habits reading material.
What about the reading material, Good Working Habits?
She's trying to locate it.
I'll have to double check on that.
All right. She's saying there's a quiz. Melissa, are you talking about BK101 or CE115? Because if it's CE115, that'll be discussed tomorrow night.
We'll talk about that tomorrow. That's why I'm like, what's that on 101? Yeah, CE155. I'm your instructor for that as well tomorrow at 5 o'clock, same time. So I'll go over all the details about that class then.
And let's see, there was one.
Buttermilk question I saw in there. Low-fat buttermilk. Most buttermilks are low-fat, and that's totally fine. And if you guys can't find buttermilk going forward, you can make your own too by using 8 ounces of low-fat milk, like 1 or 2%, and adding 1 ounce of lemon juice to it, or 1 ounce of white vinegar, just plain white distilled vinegar. Mix, let it sit 15 minutes, and you have buttermilk. All it's going to do is curdle it and give it a little sourness to it, and that's what we want.
And also check your baking soda, baking powder before next week. If you don't know when you opened it, toss it and go buy some fresh. And then write the date across the lid, across the front of the box, so that you know in about 6 months it's time to recycle and reuse again.
It won't last that long.
Sometimes it does.
Cool. Okay, so you guys, I got to wrap class up just because I don't want to make the recording like 3 hours long for everybody else to watch. But I do want to say, if we didn't answer any of your questions tonight, please reach out to either of us with an email or a text. You have my number on the side of the page. You have Chef Jen's information, and just let us know, because you can reach out to either of us, right? Because we're both very equal and we both have the same information about pretty much everything. If there's something I didn't know, I would refer to Chef Jen, and if something she didn't know, she would probably refer to me. So, either way, you don't have to like nail Chef Jen or myself all at once with a million questions unless you want to. But at the same time, we'll answer them no matter what. We are pretty good about getting back to you guys within 24 hours. Usually it's way faster than that. And if you use my text number, then I'm pretty quick to get back to you. I do sleep at night. Like, that's really strange, right? So I do get some sleep at night. So if you text me some burning question at like 1 o'clock in the morning, you probably won't get an answer until around 7 in the morning. And I'm in Vermont, right? So I'm on Eastern time. So I'm, kind of a little bit later than everybody else. So just keep that in mind too. If you're trying to call me and I don't answer, it's probably because if you're in California and I'm in Vermont, I'm probably sleeping by then. But I do appreciate all you guys being here. That's awesome. There were up to like 105 people at one time. So that's perfect. Keep that up every week. And Chef Jen, any last words?
I'm the same way. Feel free to call me, text me. Texting is usually the easiest, just because I can respond pretty quicker. I will answer them 7 days a week if you're texting, unless I am physically away from my phone. Okay. Phone calls, I pretty much handle those Monday through Friday. My hours are listed on the class page too. So please don't hesitate if you need me to text me or even call.
Excellent. Thank you, Chef. I appreciate it. All right, you guys, have a wonderful evening. And next week, we'll talk about the fun stuff like ingredient function and pancakes and all of that stuff. So it's going to be completely different. We won't have to talk about all the stuff that we don't want to talk about. So we're going to really get into some really fun stuff. All right. And so again, you know where to find us. Don't be shy. Submit early, right? Good night.
Bye, everybody.
Chef Paul, how can I save the meeting?
How can you do what?
How can I save the meeting?
Oh, I'm going to record it. I have to take the recording and submit it to YouTube, and then have it run through some filters, and then I will load it back up, so you'll be able to click on it in the class and watch it anytime.
No, I want to save them the chat. What is the button to save the chat?
Let's see.
There is no save button to save the chat. I want to save it.
I have it saved. Okay, I'll send it to you.
The chat one.
Yep, I have it. I just saved it. Okay.
Yeah. Okay.
All right. Have a good night.
Thanks.